Hey everybody, NecroVMX here, and it's time for another part in the top 10 best video game series ever. And today we're going to be taking a look at number 8. Number 8 on my list of the top 10 best video game series ever is The Elder Scrolls. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Necro, what the fuck is The Elder Scrolls? Well, you're probably not familiar with the name The Elder Scrolls, but you probably do know the third and fourth game. The third game was called Morrowind, and the fourth game was called Oblivion. There were two before that, but they were only released for PC, and they're kind of old, so not many people have heard of them. The first one was called Arena, and the second one was called Daggerfall. They were all great games, but it's not until Morrowind that it really obtained a lot of attention in mainstream gaming, especially due to the fact that Morrowind was ported to the Xbox, and Oblivion was ported to the Xbox 360, and I believe also the PlayStation 3. There's also been some add-ons, including Battlespire, Redguard, Tribunal, Blood Moon, Knights of the Nine, and Shivering Isles. Wow. It's a lot of games, and it's been around for a really long time. Now, I remember the first time I played the very first game, Oblivion. It fucking blew me away. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I played it on my uncle's computer because mine was a piece of shit, and it seemed to me like the most realistic, immersive thing I've ever seen in my life. The graphics were amazing. I mean, these days I look at it and it doesn't look any better than, say, Doom 2. Well, I'd say it looks a little bit better than Doom 2, but they're about on the same level. Daggerfall I didn't get to play until much later, so actually it wasn't until after I played Morrowind. But Morrowind is the game that really got me into the series. Now, I was always a big fan of Arena, although I never beat it. I did get pretty close. On Morrowind, wow, I had to play this. I ran home and I installed it to my computer. It was about 2:30 p.m. Before I knew it, it was like 2 a.m. That's how these games suck you in. Now, they are role-playing games, and they're in first person, which kind of seems weird at first. The first two games have a weird sort of control setup where you point the mouse where you want to go. It's kind of hard to deal with, but you got used to it at the time. Morrowind and Oblivion have a setup similar to what most people use for Doom. You use the W, A, S, and D keys on your keyboard to move around and the mouse to look around. It's basically what I use for most games with a first-person view, and I'm glad they did that. Of course, you can map the keys wherever you want, but, you know, the controls are so good in those games, you really don't need to do that. If I had to explain what the controls in the first two games were like, well, if you've ever played System Shock, it's a little bit like that. Anyway, each of these games takes place in a different era, in a world called Tamriel. In the first game, you play as a prisoner who has to rescue the Emperor, Uriel Septim, from a battle mage named Jagar Tharn. You have to go all over Tamriel collecting pieces of a rod, and the final piece is in Morrowind in this place called Dagoth-Ur. Then you go to the Imperial City in Cyrodiil, and you fight Jagar Tharn and rescue the Emperor. In the second game, you play as this guy who's trying to unite all these different factions. I haven't played it all that much, but it is considered to be one of the greatest games in the series. Now, what's unusual is the first game you had the run of all of Tamriel, but the second game only took place in the High Rock province. This became kind of a thing with the series. Although you can go all over Tamriel in the first game, everything looked really generic. Focusing on only one part of the world at a time, well, it lets you get more in-depth. The third game, Morrowind, well, it obviously takes place in Morrowind, in an island called Vardenfell. In that, you play as this guy called the Nerevarine, and your mission is to save Morrowind from a bad guy called Dagoth-Ur. You might remember him from the first game, well, sort of. Oblivion, you play as a hero in the Imperial City, and so in that game takes place in Cyrodiil, and your object is to light the dragon fires and prevent Oblivion from taking over Tamriel. Oblivion's kind of like hell. The graphics were always on the cutting edge. I mean, like I said, when I first played Arena, it was the most realistic, most awesome thing I'd ever seen in my life. And each game, well, they're always on the cutting edge. I mean, Oblivion, it's one of the most attractive games out there. It's right up there with games like, well, there's Bioshock and what's that other one? Oh, I don't remember. But anyway, the graphics were always amazing, the music was always immersive, and another thing is there's a lot of depth to these games. The complexity and depth in these games can be pretty overwhelming at first. But the thing is, you don't have to do anything. And that really is the charm of the game. It really is a role-playing game in the truest sense of the world. Sure, there's a quest to do, but you don't really have to do it. You can do whatever you want. Once you're out of the prison, since you always seem to start in a prison, you have the free reign of Tamriel, or whatever province of Tamriel you're in, and you can pretty much go wherever you want and do whatever you want. You can be evil if you want to. You can kill everybody. You can be a serial killer. You can be a thief and steal from everybody, or you can be a hero. Or you can just ignore everything and do your own thing. There's lots of factions to join, and there's always people to talk to, and there's always a lot of politics and backstory. I mean, even just reading the books that you find lying around, you can spend days doing that. And all of this is just very small parts of the reason why The Elder Scrolls is one of the greatest video game series of all time, and I can't wait for number 5. Well, that's number 8 on my list. See you guys soon with number 7.